Good morning, it's the 3rd of December 2024 and it's frosty. There's a good sharp frost this morning and pipes are frozen and all of that. So it's a change of weather. Right, by the time you see this, I have to head out now to take down more posters. I've had a lot of posters robbed and stolen or taken, but there is the possibility that some are taken down by well-wishers and will give them to me in due course. So if anyone has taken down posters of mine so as to hand them over after the election, and of course once the polls close the poster has no relevance again at all. So if any of you have taken down my posters, just post here under or let me know, that's alright. But I think there's a good few of them stolen, particularly the ones relating to the SEA directive. They don't want anyone to know about that directive, and I'm right about that directive, but anyway, that's that. Now the election took place and I ended up with 1249 first preference votes, and when the transfers took place from other minor candidates I ended up with 1443. Now that's not a bad count, in fairness, when you think that 1,443 people left their homes and went in to vote for me and voted for me. It's good. A lot of them were committed to other parties, including Sinn Féin, including Fianna Fáil, and including many other parties, and they voted for me, number one, and then the cross to them. And I know that by the transfers. Now, one of the problems I had with my transfers was they were mixed in with the Hendricks candidate. The votes of myself and Hendricks were not individually, were not enough to change the order but underneath of the candidates that were higher up. So they eliminated the two together. So at this point in time, I do not know where my votes actually went completely. However, considering that she was people before profit, I would think that they would go to more left-wing candidates like Sinn Féin and those. But Sarah O'Reilly of Aintu got 675 of those, and I would think they were mostly mine. I think what happened there was the Aintu vote went to me, some of them, and now remember only 675. I got a total of 1249 first preference, so half of them went to that lady, Sarah O'Reilly, but the other ones went distributed among other parties. Now I'll give you that at a later time, and it'll get a bit tiresome after a while talking about the election. Now, one of the things about it is everyone says I did relatively well, and I did do relatively well, and party leader Herman Kelly got over 12,500 votes in Louth, which was very good for a first time showing. But the problem is that the reason we ran at all, the reason that we ran for election was to stop the migrant crisis. Mainly to stop the migrant crisis. Although there's many things wrong with our society, and I've been waxing lyrical about them for years, and they're coming home to roost. That was the most urgent thing because that changes the population of the country. Now, one of the things that affected me in deciding to run was that people who I knew were committed to Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael had promised me their vote, and they delivered. They did give me their vote. And of course the big problem is, how do you get round a big housing estate? I had a bit of misfortune, but it wouldn't have changed the overall thing with a man injured and that sort of stuff. So a lot of my plans were scuttled by injuries and all of that, and I now have to go out and take down the posters where myself and that man put up, and some of them are pretty high, so it's not easy. He's not available because of a sore leg. Other party workers, to whom I'm very grateful, did go around and do that for me. So we had the fun and the bit of music and all that for a bit of fun to get a bit of a whiz going. So it's not a disaster, but our country is still in the same position. The fact is, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil combined are 2 seats short of an overall majority. 2 seats short. Now, I'll go into the history of this for people that don't know, but back in 1960s, Fianna Fáil decided to select Charlie Haughey as opposed to George Colley. George Colley was a decent man, but Haughey was a bit of a crook. Now, he mightn't do what they're doing now, but he was a crook. And so Fianna Fáil's fortunes have been sliding. So you must remember that over the past, since 1967 or 8, around then, Fianna Fáil had a majority. They had a majority in the Dáil and in the government. Now they have only something like, is it 39 seats? What? No, 49. I don't know. They have only about 21% anyway. That's all we need. Just having the figures here. They have 21% when they had 53%. Now, that's the remaining hardcore Fianna Fáil. But it has to be said that in the last few elections, the fortunes of Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil have stabilised. So that's the vote for evermore. That will not be going away. That's the vote for evermore. I know a person voted for me and voted for Niamh Smith, number 2. I know a person voted for me and voted for Maxwell, number 2, and voted Niamh Smith, number 3. So that's the thing about it. So one of the things stands out to me is that of all the candidates who would be close to my side is Aontú. And the reason I didn't back them from the beginning was that I didn't know how strong they were on the migration point. I would suggest to Paddy Tobin, and that they have another candidate elected. Sarah Riley didn't get elected, but I would suggest that they come down hard now on the migration issue. So what are people saying to me? They're saying to me, you had courage to run, it had to be aired, it helped to air it, it forced it out into the agenda. So that's one thing I did do. I forced the other candidates to debate it in the Northern Sound discussion on the radio. They had to discuss it. They were going to sweep that under the carpet. And if you look at anywhere where there is no candidate on my side running, they did sweep it under the carpet, and the media wanted it swept under the carpet. Now, so that's one thing. Now, the other thing was, I was thinking about was, way back years ago, about 1981, there was a H-block strike. And up to then, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael had the majority government. Between them, they had close to majorities. Fianna Fáil were short, and they used to go into government with a few other minor parties, like Tony Gregory, and then Fine Gael used to go in with Labour. These were different parties ideologically, but they used to go in. So in came the H-block, and Kieran Doherty ran for election in Cavan Monaghan, and others ran elsewhere, and Kieran Doherty topped the poll. He had to give his life. He was dying of hunger strike. God be good to him. He died. So Kieran Doherty topped the poll. And that put a decision to Cavan Monaghan voters, who were mostly Fianna Fáil, a tiny amount Fine Gael, but mostly Fianna Fáil. That put a dilemma to them. Did they back the man that they supported, Kieran Doherty, or he was a member of the IRA and convicted of crimes, but they saw it as he was fighting the British, or that's the first thing, or do the vote for Fianna Fáil again. And they chose Kieran Doherty because of what they saw as the injustice of the situation, and to give him a boost. So that proved that you could pull votes away from Fianna Fáil. And I measured that in this election, if there was a candidate that was totally anti-mass migration, and I was the only one, Aontú were not the only one. If there was a candidate that was totally against mass migration, it might be similar to the Kieran Doherty situation. They might say, on this occasion, we can't let this go on. So that happened only a little. That happened only a bit. It didn't happen altogether. Now, people say, did you shake hands with everyone? Did you go to every door? The answer, of course, is no. But they all got my letter. They all got a little booklet with my policy on it, End Mass Migration Now. And the people who changed back in 1981 had that option, and they didn't take it. But some did. Not a bad wee vote if you're just going up as an ordinary candidate, a young fella hoping that someday your vote will come in. That's not an option for me at my stage of life. So they didn't do it. And in Dublin, they voted for the monk before they voted for Steenson, a good man. And so by the monk running, and I'll have to deal with that in another video, they put Steenson out without any hope. The fact is, none of the anti-migration parties got the clap on the back. And that means that the issue of mass migration is not seen in the same urgency as anything else, or as the H-block or any of that was. That's the reality. Now, to my way of thinking and to my mind, this is disastrous. And I'm going to post a few videos underneath that you can watch and see how outsiders see this. Our country is being overrun. Magpie entrepreneurs are buying up buildings. And very soon, the very people who voted, even they will not get a house. The Greens got shattered, and that has to be said. They lost all but one seat. They lost 11 seats. It was a pity O'Gorman got elected, but he did. Now, they haven't even enough to negotiate with the Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael to be, maybe if they had 3 TDs, they could say, we'll go in with you. And they would, but they can't. And the lesson from this goes back to the Progressive Democrats. Hope the sun is, I'll have to stand over here and try and block the sun. Goes back to the Progressive Democrats. They formed in with Fianna Fáil. They tried to be a minor party to change policy. The parties just did change policy, and they were left unpunished. Here we have the Greens. Now their policies were a disaster for Ireland, but in any event, they got punished hard. And one of the things about the two people who go in to government now with Fianna Fáil is that they'll be destroyed too. The only way that Aontú could possibly form a government with Fianna Fáil is that migration is urgently stopped, and that they monitor it, and that they make their participation in government subject to urgent action on migration. Aontú probably won't do that. So who is going to do it? Some couple of independents that will seek something for their own area. Would the Healy Rays do it if they got something? I don't think so. But the history of Ireland is that the electorate severely punishes those who prop up the governments they want. Essentially, the electorate in Ireland want Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil and Sinn Féin. They want them badly. And if somebody doesn't go into government with them, they're wrong because they didn't do it, but they can't do much about it. But if someone does go into government with them, they're going to punish them and try and bring around a situation where Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael will form the government again. Many people point out that it used to be Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael would be killing each other on the street. Now they're all the one. That's it. They were never really much different. And by right, they should get together and form one single party. And if they did, they'd rule the roost. They'd still get 48% of the seats, maybe 47. So that's not that relevant to this. So was I wise to run? Well, first of all, I got a bit of funding from people, and I'm very grateful to for that. I have to go now and take down signs, so I won't be able to work out my books, but I will do it eventually and let you know how it worked out financially. I felt there was a serious problem facing my country, and I tried to do something about it. Didn't get too excited about it. We pushed our program. We had a good time, and we had a bit of fun doing it, and nobody got seriously injured. We had a man injured, but nobody got seriously injured or any permanent injuries, and thank God for that. So essentially, there'll be videos underneath. I think what this means, though, is that the Ireland we knew and loved is dead. I think that's what it miles to. I think at the end of the day, I remember I had an old granny just here behind where this camera is, and she lived to be 99. And she told me she heard Charles Stewart Parnell giving an election speech in Carrickmacross, down where the post office is now. And I worked it out. It had to be 1896. She was born 1872. Now, I was a young lad, and she was an old woman, and she used to call me Valavic. So if you look at my email address, it's Valavic, and that's why I have that. Val, my son, it means sunny. And but she told me she heard Parnell giving a speech, and that's unbelievable that I actually heard from the lips of a person whose ears heard Parnell. I often think that is fascinating, that there was only one person between me and Parnell. Now, I could say I'm too old to be at this, but I'm not really. But no, it's just happened that way, that I was reared with a woman, and I was very young. And but she told me that. So that's a strange thing. So I remember the old Ireland. I remember the men all smoking crew beans and pipes and lighting tobaccos and all of that, and the card games and all of that. And so now I can see that that's gone. That is gone, and maybe that age came after some other age that was maybe people lamented as well. But it is gone, and the idea of Irishness is gone, and we're a multicultural society, and we're going to become more a multicultural society. And I'll deal with the sentiment of the people who want this mass migration. I'll deal with that in another video, but that's the situation. It'll not be till it sinks home that they'll change. Do you know what I kind of think? I think that nobody watching this video will be around in 100 years. I'd say that's fair to say, in the year 2123. And then Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and Sinn Féin will still be as they are today. I'd say Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael will be in power for the next 100 years. I think that's reasonable to say. But, and once I get the election over and not bore you too much with it, the next move is to see what the outside factors are, what the external factors will be. In any event, one of the things my candidacy in the general election of 2024 does is it stops the people from saying they had no one to vote for. They had candidates to vote for. Oh, we didn't. Sure, who could we vote for? Tired going to weddings in Dublin and weddings over the West and the one old thing. Who will we vote for? They had a choice. They had a choice in Cavan Monaghan. They didn't need all my personal communication. They were able to manage it with Kieran Doherty in 1981, and they didn't need much polling or much canvassing at all, and they could have managed it this time, but they chose not to. The migrants from Africa and Asia are up in the town here. They're in every town in Ireland, and the people who see their town totally changed and totally overrun went in and voted for the parties that are doing it. That's the simple fact. And that's one thing my candidacy and that of the Irish Freedom Party put an end to. No excuses anymore. Folks, you voted for it. You'll continue to vote for it. And you get it. And that's the only thing to change that is outside factors, which I won't deal with here. But that's it. We'll see you back, folks. Comment underneath. I know people are very disappointed, and people with intelligence. A lot of this is a lack of intelligence too, a lack of the brains to understand it. Most people, even one very, very senior Fianna Fáil man voted for me and went back then to Brendan Smith and Eve Smith and told me that when I explained it to him that he could see that I was right. But I can't explain that to everybody, and that's what history is made of. In the Britain, in the lead up to World War II, they elected Neville Chamberlain. They did not elect Churchill. They elected Churchill, go in and beat Hitler, helped to beat Hitler. Well, don't start posting it was the Yankees. He was the man of the time for that job. And as soon as the war was over, they voted him out again. Remember that. Remember also that when Hitler was rising to power in the 1930s, he only got 37% of the vote. There were people in Germany who could forecast and say, this is a disaster, this will lead to disaster. But there's nothing they can do. And most of my viewers here, and the few that are not on my side, will too realise that what has happened in this election is a disaster for Ireland. It's a disaster for the traditional Irish. And the voters of Cavan Monaghan have been traitors to the view. I mean, in this very county, they elected Arthur Griffith. They voted 73% for Ireland in 1918. And yet, when our future's on the line in 2024, the vote for mass migration. So let them shut up and put up with it. And as many one posts here under, I think there's 1/3 of the voters in Cavan Monaghan civil service working for the state, and they're happy enough. But that doesn't explain then how Sinn Féin got in. Sinn Féin, surely if they're all working for the state, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael would get all the vote from the state, and yet Sinn Féin is getting the vote from the state. It's a factor, but it's only 1/3. Where's the other 2/3? Good topic for discussion underneath and all of that. So we'll see you back for something else. That's the hard fact. Am I bitter? Not at all. I'm not bitter at all. Am I sad? Yes, very sad. Very, very sad. Do I learn anything from it? Well, I learned that if Aontú could possibly up their act on this migration, Sarah Riley come very near to beating Niamh Smith, and if she had me behind her and a few other people behind her, maybe she would. But Aontú needs to come and deal with this issue and not have what I always fear, someone else getting in and doing the opposite. And that's why I didn't support Independent Ireland, because they didn't do that well. And I still think the bottom line is with Independent Ireland, Shane P. O'Reilly in this area, we couldn't get a good commitment early on that they were going to deal with the migration crisis. They came out with it a week before the election because they are ultimately for mass migration. And many of our countrymen are for mass migration. This is it's an unbelievable thing, but there you have it. I can say no more on it. Thank you all who give me help and support and who voted for me, and I respect your right to do then as you wish with your number twos and number threes. And we'll have a look at bits of the election over that, not to go back over whinging or anything else, but just to see little things that I discovered from it. And we'll see you back. That's exactly 20 minutes. We'll see you back for something else. Comment underneath. Give a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you don't agree. And we'll see you back. Good luck. Bye.